The Easa Al Gurg Group is one of the UAE and Arab world's most prominent conglomerates. I'm Dan Murphy, and in this edition of the CNBC Conversation, I speak to a third-generation CEO who's taken the reins of the business that carries his name.
Dubai, where the creek splits the town in two, is the largest trading port of the Trucial States.
Businessman Easa Al Gurg founded his eponymous company in the early 1960s, buying land for the development of real estate and partnering with foreign businesses to bring consumer goods into Dubai. After the formation of the United Arab Emirates, Dubai grew, and so did his operation, expanding across the country and into the construction, industrial and retail sectors. Today, the group portfolio holds around 30 companies and continues to run joint ventures with global brands, including Unilever and Siemens. As well as being one of the UAE's biggest conglomerates, the group also has operations in Oman and Saudi Arabia, making the Al Gurg family highly prominent in the Gulf region. In 2022, the family announced Easa Al Gurg's passing. Credited with a significant contribution to the UAE's growth, he left behind an incredible legacy. Although embarking on a new era, the business is still being led by family members, including Easa's daughter, Dr. Raja Al Gurg, who works as chairperson and managing director, and her son, who shares her father and his grandfather's name, Easa Al Gurg, the group CEO, who I met at the company's headquarters in Dubai. Easa Al Gurg, welcome to the CNBC Conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Easa, we're speaking at the Al Gurg headquarters here in Dubai. What can you tell me about the room that we're sitting in right now?
This is a very special room, actually. This is my grandfather's office. He used to operate from here every single day, up to the last day that he actually came to office, just before COVID. It has a lot of sentimental and historical value to us as a family, and the reason I'm sitting here is to also show you how important our legacy and our history as a family is for us.
And how does it make you feel walking inside this room today?
Very nostalgic, very emotional. Every time I pass by, either from the outside or walk in, I have good memories, very fond memories of my grandfather and myself. I'm actually quite lucky to have worked with him hand in hand. So we're three generations of a family that work together. First, second, and third, which is quite rare in family businesses. But we were blessed to have learned from him quite a lot, and to be able to adapt as we grow as a business with his vision from the beginning to where we are today.
Let's talk about the business as it stands today. Talk to me about the size and scope of Easa Al Gurg and the components of the portfolio.
My grandfather founded this group in 1960, starting with real estate. We're mainly into four main verticals. We're into the real estate segment, into industrial segment, the retail and lifestyle, as well as manufacturing. And we have 27 companies within the group. We have 7 joint ventures and growing. We've partnered with many of the global brands such as Siemens, Unilever, AkzoNobel, and many more, actually. And we've grown organically and inorganically over the past decades. But I think we're in a very, very good place today.
And what about within the portfolio of businesses under the group umbrella? What's performing really well? What's most profitable at the moment?
We are seeing a lot of movement in retail and lifestyle. We are quite surprised ourselves. A lot of people are moving into Dubai, and we're seeing a very positive movement in that direction. So our furniture business, such as we have some businesses which are homegrown, such as Chattels and More and Better Life. Both of them actually are doing quite well. And apart from retail and lifestyle, we have some of our businesses within the industrial segment. But as a group today, we've seen times where one segment would compensate for the other. So if we talk about purely today, it's those two main segments that we're actually looking at.
And no business is perfect, of course. You are vulnerable to domestic and external headwinds. Is there anything that's keeping you awake at night at the moment when you think about the state of the world and you think about the state of the UAE?
The main requirement that any organization has to have is that you need to make sure that you're able to adapt quickly to changing environments around you. We're living in a very unique geographical location. We're living in a very unique time as well, be it from the supply chain issues that are faced globally or the aftermaths of the COVID era, for example, and being able to continuously adapt as well when it comes to the supply chain issues is something which we are able to look at from each business's perspective. So as of today, I'm glad to say I don't have anything that keeps me awake at night.
I also wanted to ask you about Russia's war in Ukraine. You spoke about some of the supply chain issues, and these are directly correlated. The war has resulted in soaring energy prices, supply chain disruptions, of course, but also it's upended geoeconomics and politics as well. What impact is that having directly or indirectly on the business today?
If I look at our business, we follow in the directions of what our government usually advises, and we've had really a lot of clarity into dealing with the situations that come around us, be it whether it's the situation in Ukraine, whether it's the situation of COVID and so forth. And we are able to maneuver ourselves as a business within these changing times. This is just another example of scenarios that come around in the world which we have to adapt to. And the way we are affected is mainly throughout our global partners who also are affected by the same. But it's important to be able to find your path forward when you come through such a situation.
Coming up, clicks or mortar?
It's a completely different world out there, and I believe you will never be able to get the right formula to be perfect in it, but we keep changing our approach every single day.
Welcome back to the CNBC Conversation and to Dubai, where I met Easa Al Gurg, CEO of the Easa Al Gurg Group, which was founded by his grandfather more than 60 years ago. Let's talk about the other trends we're seeing in the business. Retail increasingly leaning towards e-commerce, because what we're seeing is bricks and mortar now largely becoming bricks and clicks. What are the trends you're seeing in retail in particular?
Becoming click and mortar, I think.
Click and mortar.
Click and mortar.
Okay.
I believe both are important. We've seen a lot of back and forth between clients who like to use their iPhones or iPads or whatever, or their desktops to purchase online. But there are certain clientele who prefer to still come to the showroom to feel the item they're planning to buy, whether it's furniture, whether it's a fridge or a washing machine. I think both complement each other quite importantly. We are investing heavily into our e-commerce platforms and trying to establish a stronger presence over there. It's a completely different world out there, and I believe you will never be able to get the right formula to be perfect in it, but we keep changing our approach every single day.
So what does close to perfect look like in the retail space for the group?
Close to perfect is continuous growth, be it in turnover and profitability, especially in these times. And that's one thing that I'm actually able to see today, which is which gives me quite a lot of confidence about our market as well.
The other aspect of the business I wanted to ask you about is construction as well. Construction and the property market, highly cyclical in the UAE. We've seen peaks and troughs over many, many years. How would you describe the state of the market today?
I think there is a bit of refocus happening now, especially after Expo. But the way that UAE and Dubai specifically has always been behaving over the past decades of our lives is that we always come up with a new surprise every now and then. We're yet to see the next surprise, but we're preparing for it. As a group, we are continuing to invest in our businesses. We're not affected in any way by these cyclical events, but we are able to identify that, okay, as we see retail is performing well today, we believe that the construction market will perform better in the next year or so. And it's usually a matter of who's able to sustain themselves for the longest period, because you see a lot of organizations or companies coming in and out of the business. And our objective as a group has always been to play for the long term and to be able to plan for the long term in our businesses overall.
Easa, what do you think is key to keeping momentum in the property and construction market going from this point on?
I believe a very important factor would be the control of the amount of projects that are coming into the market. We've seen a lot of that happening over the past few years. We've seen some projects being re-evaluated. We've seen some projects being strengthened even further, for example. We have a lot of new upcoming projects, be it in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi, but I believe it's important to identify the right ones at the right time. We may have a very good opportunity, but maybe the timing would have been better 6 months from now or a year from now. And having that control over allowing investments to come in a continuous flow is important.
Technology is also a passion of yours. Tell me about the work that's going on right now at Scion Technic, which is a key part of the group.
It started as a trading company almost 50 years ago, and has the old agreements, trade and distribution agreements, for example. But it has evolved to being a technology partner, a solution partner with the likes of Siemens and many of our other partners as well. One of the things that we are focusing a lot on in Scion Technic is mainly e-mobility. We're looking into areas of being able to cater to the changing automobile industry, be it supplying the solutions for the e-chargers and so forth. This is one of the segments that we are focusing on. The other segments is mainly looking into how we can become a more service-oriented organization and be able to provide more solutions rather than just selling products. We've moved away from being box movers to being solution providers, I would say.
So what does the growth trajectory of that business look like from now on, and how are you going to be leaning into some of those initiatives?
I worked in Scion Technic for 10 years, and I've been able to see it grow from having 300 people to having 700-800 people and 1,000 plus. And it's the growth happens in all the segments that are operational within it. It has trading, it has projects, it has building technologies, lighting, and it's unique because there's not a single project as a group that we have not had some way of operating in, be it we supplied the carpets in that office or the furniture or the lighting or the fire alarm systems and so forth. So we are evolving in each business unit. We've entered into life science and healthcare as a segment. That was just before COVID, by the way. And we were able to grow faster because of COVID. But in general, we are trying to stay focused to our true nature. We're not trying to diversify in too many segments and spread ourselves too thin, but focusing on the segments we are capable in to improve ourselves there even further.
Easa, climate change and the energy transition are critical issues that face all businesses around the world, including in the MENA region in particular. How are you thinking about those dual challenges, and what does it mean for the group?
These are very important issues, and as a group we've been able to cater to those requirements. We were able to play a positive role, let's say. One of the main areas we're focusing on as a group is mainly the solar systems which we provide. So we're able to actually help properties save energy rather than consume so much electricity. On the other hand, the partners such as Siemens that we work with are quite ahead of many in this segment. And I think being able to align ourselves with their vision and their support towards climate change and energy and the energy markets is quite important.
Talk to me about why it was so important to work at Scion Technic before you took over the role here as CEO.
My ultimate aim was to always join the family business. And before joining Scion Technic, I worked in Lloyds Bank for a while, and then I worked in Siemens as well. So I got that opportunity there. I learned a lot from those two organizations. And upon joining Scion Technic, it was important for me to learn from the ground up. Being able to understand what it means from a client's perspective or a salesperson's perspective or a manager's perspective. And it's quite unique to be able to get that training on the ground.
You've been Group CEO since May 2021. How has that transition been for you?
It's not been as I expected it to be, mainly from a perspective that it was much more challenging than I thought it would be. But I think the preparedness that I had from Scion Technic really helped me a lot in that.
What made it more challenging than you thought it would be?
Too many people wanted too many things at the same time. And you need to be able to adapt, to be able to cater to the different requirements, because each and every request or requirement that comes in from a business or a business leader is quite important. And you need to be able to cater to those requirements and change your approach based on each business's requirement. I cannot be the same Easa as I am when it comes to retail that I am when I'm discussing Scion Technic, for example, or when I'm discussing Gulf Metal Foundry, which is our manufacturing business. So it's quite different. I need to wear different hats at different times.
Speaking of leadership team, the Al Gurg Group is a family business. All shareholders are family members.
Yes.
So how tense does it get in the boardroom?
Actually, it's quite friendly. Not tense yet. We've been blessed to have 3 generations of the family working together. There is a saying that usually says, the first generation is the creator, second generation is the caretaker, and the third generation is the cremator. So far, we're still playing the role of the second generation and planning to train the future generations to also be caretakers alongside us, hopefully. We are a very corporate-like organization, although we are a family business, but we are able to have that flexibility of a family business. And that's what makes us a bit unique. We're able to move faster in certain areas, but at the same time, we have a proper structure and corporate governance in place that makes sure that it isn't up to one single person to take a decision on everything.
How do you separate business with family time?
That's a difficult one.
Is there such a thing?
I don't think there is such a thing, to be honest. But we try our best. I believe the usual dinner we have always includes some discussion about business, lunches as well. But when it comes to one or the other party having enough of business, we just decide, okay, let's not talk about business anymore. But it still comes up every now and then.
Still ahead, Easa Al Gurg shares family wisdom.
Do what is right and everything else will fall in place. This was something my grandfather always said as well.
In this edition of the CNBC Conversation, we speak to Easa Al Gurg, the third-generation group CEO of the Saleh Al Gurg Group, founded by his late grandfather. The group's current chairperson and managing director is Easa's mother, Dr. Raja Al Gurg, widely regarded as one of the most influential women in the Middle East. And at the end of 2021, Dr. Raja was listed by Forbes as one of the world's most powerful women.
I'm quite blessed to have learned a lot from my mother. And she taught me patience. She taught me respect towards every single person I deal with. Listening twice as much as I speak, and if I don't have something good to say, I just keep quiet. That's one of the main teachings I had from her. She is a very unique person. She started out quite early with my grandfather, and she learned directly with my grandfather quite a lot. And she was the managing director of this group for well over 40 years now. And she actually moved on to focusing on growing herself apart from the family business as well. So she played a role in the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and the Dubai Businesswomen Council and the different charity foundations she's worked in. So she has quite a big responsibility of running this group as the chairperson and managing director today, but she still is able to have a big heart to bring in more and more items into her plate.
What would you say is the most important lesson that she has taught you, or the most important transfer of knowledge that you've received as a result of her guidance and mentorship over all these years?
Do what is right and everything else will fall in place.
Is that something that she says?
Always.
Wow.
And this was something my grandfather always said as well.
Your grandfather also said that?
Yes.
And that sticks with you throughout the course of your day when you're making
Absolutely.
decisions to run the business?
Absolutely. And I think when you are sitting in a challenging situation, faced with different options, it's quite simple to take the easy way out always. But choosing what's right is not always the easy way out. And I think that's the differentiator that we have as a group as well. We always do what's right. And even if it costs us more, even if it makes us lose a bit here and there, it doesn't matter as long as it's the right thing to do for the long term.
The group has good representation of females at a leadership level, and that's great for this business, but not necessarily the case for all businesses around the region. And in fact, the MENA region has the widest gender gap in the world. Why do you think that's so?
As a group, we've implemented quite a lot of policies to ensure that we encourage our female workforce. Of course, one is the implementation of a 90-day maternity leave in comparison to the 45 days norm. The other thing is we've implemented a career development program and training for all the women in our organization to ensure that they're able to advance further in their career paths. That being said, we are a result-driven organization, and if we really look at the MENA region, as you mentioned, it is quite a young region compared to many of the Western countries that have adapted quite a lot of new policies to support the reduction of gender gap. And I think we are on the path towards reducing that as a region, but it all starts with small baby steps. And I think we are headed in that direction as a group, and proud to say that we see more and more positive outcomes of the same as we go by.
Do you think large businesses in the region need to do more to ensure that that gender gap is narrowing and females are equally represented at a leadership level within business?
It's important to always look at the value addition and contribution a person brings into the organization, be it they're a woman or a man. And at the end of the day, it's not important to implement policies for a specific gender only. It's important to create a level playing field for everyone to be able to contribute and advance in their careers.
Let's talk about the future as well. How would you describe yourself as a leader, and what is your leadership style?
I am a result-driven person, a goal-oriented person. I like to make sure that I give enough freedom and empowerment to my organizations to perform. But at the same time, for those organizations that require more involvement from my side, we do get involved in a more in-depth way. And
of course, you're also a member of the Al Gurg Charity Foundation. Why is giving back so important, and how do you want to give back into the future?
The charity was established in 2010 by royal decree. It focuses mainly on education and healthcare. Of course, I am quite lucky to be given an opportunity to be part of that organization, and it was one of the greatest achievements my grandfather actually implemented. But as a family, we're proud to continue that and expand even further on it. It's part of our faith, it's part of our personality as well as a family. And how do we plan to give back further in the future is to expand the capabilities and the resources of our charity foundation to be able to give back more. Because we need to emphasize on one important point: the charity foundation that we have is self-funded. We do not take any donations from external parties. So we need to always ensure that it's also managed in a way that a business is managed, to make sure that it continuously has enough resources to give more charity.
Looking into the future, what do you want your legacy to be?
I would like my legacy to be the following. I left behind the group in a better way than I found it. And if this is something I can achieve, this would be something I would be very grateful for.
Can you do it?
Hopefully, yes.
Easa Al Gurg, thanks for speaking with me today.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's a pleasure.
That's all for this edition of the CNBC Conversation. I'm Dan Murphy in Dubai. Thanks for watching. I don't think